Hi, Faith, Jesse, and Zach Merchant here. We are joined with an extended portion of our panel. Today we have Deanna Harris, a Republican strategist, Kyle Gomez-Lineweber with Galeo Impact Fund, and Greg Bluestein, political reporter from the AJC. So during this week's episode of the Georgia Vote, we were talking about, of course, the 2026 elections. I want to ask you guys about name recognition and how important name recognition is going to be for both the Senate race and the governor's race. Let's start with the Senate. Greg.
Yeah, I think by next November, there won't be any name recognition problems because either whoever emerges from the Republican field will have so much money and influence and headlines behind them that they will raise that name recognition. The issue is the primary. The issue is, say, Congressman Buddy Carter. He's very well known in coastal Georgia. He's very well known to the political crowd. But ask your average Metro Atlanta resident if they know who Buddy Carter is. Right. They might not know. That's why Buddy Carter's already spent $2 million in ad money just to get that in name recognition out and show that he's serious about his campaign. But it's going to be a major issue going forward.
Deanna, are there, obviously John King and Buddy Carter are the folks who are top of mind right now in this conversation about the 2026 Senate race. But are there other folks you think in the Republican Party maybe flying under the radar right now who may emerge either for the Senate race or the gubernatorial or lieutenant governor's race? Are there people who an insider like you is saying, watch this space?
Well, as far as the Senate race, they still have Doug Collins up as an option and even possibly Kelly Loeffler coming back for a second round. So that's been something people have talked about.
You think they'd leave a cabinet position?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, the people, at least on the topic of name recognition, if you don't have a big name, wouldn't you want to get in early and try to raise some of that money and get out there?
Of course, but many of these individuals that we're talking about can self-fund, right? So they have the funds, the money to be able to put the initial name recognition out there and then possibly wait to see how President Trump does and the RNC and even the state party does to get behind them with the funds that they'll support them with as well. So I don't see that being a problem.
Now, Kyle, I want to ask you about the Democratic, let's go gubernatorial. Could name recognition be a hindering factor? Could people who want to run bring baggage with them?
Well, look, I mean, there's Keisha Lance Bottoms, who I think, there's a lot of talk about her running. However, she had a complicated legacy that she left behind when she left, her mayoral position. And then, of course, people are starting to talk more and more about Stacey Abrams, who obviously she's well known not just in the state of Georgia, but nationally. And so, that might translate into bringing a lot of dollars in. But the question is, would she be able to get those Kemp Warnock voters that she wasn't able to get the last time around?
Yeah.
Does somebody like State Senator Jason Estevez, who has officially launched, unlike a lot of these folks we're talking about in this conversation, who are not officially in or kind of on the wings still, Jason Estevez, he's in it, he's fully announced. Does somebody like State Senator Jason Estevez, given that he's been around the state capitol for a while now, but does not have that statewide name brand like some of these other potential candidates, does that help him or hurt him?
Well, I think really what is going to be important is he going to be able to tell that compelling story? I think he has a really interesting biography. You're talking about someone who's a school teacher, who's a business owner, who grew up in Columbus. So, it's a really impressive resume, but will he be able to, get to know Georgians, and more importantly, will Georgians be able to get to know him? So I think if he is able to tell that story in a compelling way, we might see Jason Estevez become, a strong candidate.
Do you agree with that, Deanna?
I'm not sure that he has the funds to be able to move around Georgia the way he would need to. Right now, he's pretty strong in Metro Atlanta, and I wouldn't say that he's been at the Capitol that long, right? He's only, I believe, served one term as a senator. So he has a long road ahead of him, but a lot of potential, right? So again, I look at him as one of the emerging leaders for the Democratic Party, which is a good thing. He's a really good guy.
I just want to say, does some of this, we're asking you guys a lot of questions about what could happen here, what do you think is going to happen there, but we are still so far out from this election. Is some of this just kind of unknowable right now. There's just so much space that everyone is going to have to travel to get to even the primary, let alone the general.
But when you're such a small name or unrecognizable name, it takes that long to raise that kind of money.
You need that runway.
Yeah, and you don't come out the gate just getting max out donations, right?
Unless you have 50 million of your own, right?
Yeah, and that's one reason. The reason we're talking about this so early, of course, is because Attorney General Chris Carr, he got in November of last year.
It was only, I mean, a week or two
couple
after the
weeks after the
general,
election,
right?
And that is because even though he's a statewide elected figure, he's still, a lot of people don't know who he is, so he needs to raise that money. He cannot self-finance in a way that Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones or other candidates could self-finance their own campaigns. So for the candidates without a lot of cash, they've got to get in early. They've got to do that groundwork. Jason Estevez, we were just talking about, is one of those candidates, right? You could see him being a state, national, even national figure at this time next year if he raises a lot of money. It's not just about the story that's so important, but it's also about telling that story, promoting, amplifying that story, and that takes money.
Go ahead, Faith.
Well, if you have, because mine is a completely different topic. So
Then let's, if we can linger here for one sec more, because we do have a fundraising deadline
Yeah.
coming up in a little bit. How does that, it's the end of June, is the end of this fundraising period, the filing period. How does that dynamic shape what we're seeing in terms of campaigning and messaging and the timing of campaign announcements right now?
It's the first true test, right, for a lot of these candidates. For Chris Carr, it's the second because he's already had one financial disclosure period. But for Jason Estevez, for anyone else who gets in between now and then, it's the test of whether or not they have excited donors, that they can show a base. In the Senate race, it's really tough because with this big question mark on the Republican side about who else could emerge, a lot of donors might be saying, you know what, I'll wait and see it. They might like Buddy Carter, they might like John King, but they're saying, I wonder what could happen with this Kemp-Trump meeting. On the Democratic side, though, it's a real test, especially for State Senator Jason Estevez, to show that like he's the real deal, that he can go out there and compete. Because we know if Mayor Bottoms gets in the race, she already has name recognition, she already has a fundraising base, so the pressure's up for Jason Estevez.
I want to ask you guys about this. As we get into the campaign, we saw it thoroughly through 2024. Some people call them culture war issues. Some people just call them life. I want to talk about the heartbeat bill because there's a story right now that has gotten national attention here in Georgia. A 30-year-old pregnant woman declared brain dead. But right now, doctors are saying because of the heartbeat bill, they are having to keep her alive, keep her on life support until the baby is viable to be delivered. Doctors don't know if the baby will live. It's just a lot of gray area right now. I imagine Democrats are going to use her as a poster child for the midterms. It's unfortunate that I'm calling her a poster child because this is somebody's life, but it is political. We saw this happen with Laken Riley in 2024. Is the heartbeat bill, could that be a main talking point to convince voters on either side of the aisle?
I think that it's always a talking point for Democrats. It's something that they've always just kind of referred to as a stronghold for them, and that's what their voters kind of tune into. So that'll help them for their primary, or who can come out the best and fastest for that subject matter. But as far as Republicans, I don't know that it'll hurt
them at all?
I don't know that it'll hurt us. You know, this is legislation that has passed quite some time ago, and it's enacted for the most part. And again, we have to remember that all of our constitutional officers are currently Republicans. So I don't know how strong that one issue will get one Democrat over the hill to be the newly elected constitutional officer.
Kyle?
I mean, it might not be the sole issue, but I do think it's going to become an increasingly important issue that's going to be top of mind, not just for Democratic voters, but I think voters who care about bodily autonomy and a lot of women voters, especially now that we're seeing the state government kind of, limit the scope or the impact, or trying to limit the impacts of the heartbeat bill on an ad hoc basis. There's just a lot of confusion in this state, and I think Democrats will be able to capitalize off of that.
Greg, do you think that this gray area will get cleared up anytime soon? Because even some Republicans agree that
There's a gray area, and,
Yeah.
and there are some Republicans who want to go back and clarify the law to make sure that there's not a gray area. But that would open up a whole different, subset of legislative fight back and forth. We know that in 2022 and 2024, Democrats tried to make this one of their defining issues, and in some states they had success. In Georgia, and our polls continually showed the economy was the number one issue. The economy was what helped really define the election. It wasn't that abortion and anti-abortion measures weren't important, it was that the economy reigned supreme. But I do think we're going to see more and more Democratic candidates. We're already seeing it already, right? State Senator Nabila Islam Parks has already come out with a letter addressed to Attorney General Chris Carr about this very issue. We're going to hear more and more about that as Democrats try to say, hey, there's this gray area, and this is one of the problems with this law.
All right. Thank you all so much.
On that note, we're going to leave it here. Thank you all. As always, we'll have you back again soon. Thank you for watching us as well right here on 11 Live Plus.